work. Um, our players returned yesterday after a few days off. As a staff, certainly we got a chance to do some recruiting and then, get ourselves ready for, really a gauntlet. 6 SEC games in 7 weeks. And I think we've all realized that each and every week, if you do not play your best against an SEC opponent, you leave yourself vulnerable. So we know that. We know what's in front of us. We're excited about what lies in front of us in a sense of, we've got outstanding teams that we're playing. They're nationally ranked. This is the part of the season now where, teams, begin to show what they're made of. And for us, certainly what we're looking for is a complete game. We have not played a complete game. And when I use the word complete game, I'm referring to offense, defense, and special teams complementing themselves and each other, right? What we've had is, bits of really good performances, in particular the second half by our offense, but not a very good start or a good first half by our offense, but our defense playing well. And in particular, you just look to the Ole Miss game where we did not play efficiently enough in the offensively to start the game in the first half, got ourselves behind, and then played well in the second half and had an opportunity to win the game. That can't happen. You leave yourself open to last play of the game, last series of the game, key stop. We just need to play a complete game where our offense complements our defense and special teams. That hasn't shown itself yet. It will. We've worked hard on that. Our players have committed to that. And now we'll get an opportunity to show ourselves against a really good South Carolina team, a team that, I think many know is led by Lenore Sellers, who's an outstanding athlete, incredible arm, has the ability to change a game. We saw what he did against us last year. Certainly somebody that we have to make sure does not wreck the game for us. Coach Beamer does a really good job in all phases, but, their special teams this year in particular, really show themselves. I think that's going to be a great challenge for us. They've got an outstanding returner. They've changed the game in a couple of instances on special teams. Vakari Smith, as you guys know, he's got 3 punts for touchdowns already. So that gets your attention immediately and understanding how important special teams will be in this game. Last year they blocked a punt. Generally, as you know, if you block a punt in a game, you stand a great chance of winning the game. We're still fortunate enough to win that game. So we've got to be really clean in special teams. We've got to be able to accent the things that we do well as well in terms of our returners. But we've got to play really well in special teams. Defensively, they've got an elite pass rusher, probably one of the best that we'll see all year. I think, when you look at guys in this league, everybody's got the ability to rush the passer. But again, I think in our situation, we're going to have to do some things to take care of Dylan Stewart. We're going to have to, be very cognizant of where he is. He can obviously disrupt your passing game, and we'll have to be very, very aware of where he is. It's accomplished defense. They've got good pieces back from last year. This will be a great football game in Tiger Stadium. We're excited to be back at Tiger Stadium and look to continue to have our success there. So with that, we'll open up the questions.
Coach, obviously you mentioned the importance of complementary football. How much of a part of that is also trying to capitalize more on some of the turnovers you guys are creating on defense and turning those turnovers into more points?
Yeah, I think your point is well taken, Koki. Those have turned into field goals. We need to turn those into touchdowns. I don't know that they've been empty possessions, but they haven't been impactful possessions for us offensively. And so, Yeah, that's part of this, right? This is about playing more consistent football offensively for 4 quarters, and then taking advantage of your opportunities, whether it be special teams, which they have, turnovers, which they have, and we're going to have to continue to do that or get to that level if we want to have the success we're talking about.
Brian, just a general health update. Could you kind of give us updates on Weston and Paul and Caden, maybe anybody else that you think might be questionable?
I think we'll list Weston is a go, Caden is a go, Nuss is a go, Paul is questionable, and Anderson is a probable. Those are our guys on the report right now.
Right. We've seen Alex Atkins sitting next to Joe Sloan in the press box. Can you kind of work through what his role is on game day, and is he influencing play calling or anything like that with Joe working together?
Yeah, they're collaborating. In particular, Alex has been assigned the run game, and I think that collaboration occurs. I can hear it on the headsets. They work well together, and that's why, I've said this before. We want to run the ball more efficiently, but I see the signs of that coming together. So we expect that to get better and better as the season goes on. But yeah, those two are collaborating on game day.
Coach, last week you talked about wanting to see some differences in the passing game.
Yeah.
Can you go into a little bit more detail on that? And then secondly, would you want to see the receiver rotation maybe in series be reduced, or is that what you were talking about? Can you just elaborate a little bit more?
I think last week or 2 weeks ago, you saw less personnel moving in and out of the game at the wide receiver position. We were setting almost every play for a particular player, and in some instances that's good, but sometimes you don't get the flow of the game, right? There's two things going on. So I think we felt more comfortable what the rotation was last week in terms of our receivers being in and out of the game. And look, I think at the end of the day, it's more explosive plays. We were 1 of 7 when we threw the ball down the field. We've got to hit some of those shots that we came up short on. Those are big plays that usually led themselves for us to touchdowns. So big plays down the field, we've got to hit on those. And then I think finding a nice rhythm offensively where we're not, going over the boards every time, on a shift change. We've got to be a little bit more consistent with our flow.
This game included, but also just around the country, there were a lot of quarterbacks heading into the year that people were very, 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 very excited about, but hasn't always necessarily gone to plan for those guys. So since it's more of a nationwide trend, do you think it's more about quarterback development at the high school level? Is it about the way defenses are sort of attacking quarterbacks nowadays? Like, is there anything that sort of goes into this, or is this just a big coincidence and I'm making this all up?
You left me plenty of room there. Koki. Your shield is down. I love it. Look, I come from this a different perspective, right? I think we have all this build up to the season. We have all this time to read and think about who the best is, and everybody's got to get their shout out as to who the best quarterback is and and sometimes that's just, not realistic. I think what I'm more interested in is let's be a little bit more patient. Let's see how this thing plays out. We got a big stretch of games in front of us. Whatever your narrative is on our quarterback, so be it. You earn what you get in everything you do in life. But there's so much in front of us. So I just think maybe the lesson is in everything we do in life, let's be a little bit more patient. Let's wait till all the facts get out. Let's be a little bit more interested in what this process looks like than trying to get out with some kind of announcement right out of the gates. That's just my opinion.
This probably dovetails into that, but last week some unsettling news regarding Kyron Lacey's situation there. Just him having been a part of this team. What are your thoughts on that, and will you use it to address the team regarding it now?
No, look, and it does. It kind of follows up on Koki's question is that, I thought that this is a process that takes time. I think I said back in, when this occurred that let's wait until all the information comes out. Because for us to make these, universal statements early on, it doesn't serve anybody well. And so, I don't have any facts here. I'm following it just like you guys are. Let's just be patient and make sure that all the information gets out. He's loved by us. was loved before and is loved after. So, there's not really a need to talk to our team. They follow it. They love Kyron. He was a great teammate, and he's going to be missed.
Coach, how did Nuss respond to last week, and what do you think you'll have for him this week in preparation for the game?
Yeah, I mean, he's like I said, I mean, he's feeling better and better. We didn't do a lot with him last week. We wanted to use that as a recovery week for him. Obviously he did a lot with VR, he stayed involved in everything that we're doing, run game checks, splits checks, things of that nature. But we just cut him down from, the throwing. Obviously we're going to go out today. We'll get a bonus day in terms of being able to practice today. So our expectations after talking to him is he feels good and he's ready to go. Good?
We're not letting him get out of here that quick.
All right. I was hoping.
Go ahead, Matt.
Whenever Gabriel Elliford was injured, we talked about some of the guys that might rotate behind him. Against Ole Miss, Dylan Carpenter only played 9 snaps. Is there an expectation that that might increase, or are you primarily going to run with the 3 guys?
I think it's a game-to-game situation. We trust Dylan, but there's certain situations we want to match those 3 players up in the game. And I think that the way the game was playing, we felt more comfortable with that 3-man rotation. Dylan's in that opportunity to be a guy that plays more, but I think it's going to be game-to-game.
Without tipping your hand too much, I mean, were there any other light bulb moments in your self-scout over the bye week that you were like, okay, yeah, this is obviously something we need to look at and figure out?
No, I think there would all, we've been so much better in the second half than the first half. From an offensive perspective, play a little bit more to our strengths. And really, like I mentioned, much more of an efficient 4 quarters of offense is what's needed. There's no major changes. There's no, hey, we're going to go to a split back veer or do something crazy here. We have to be more efficient in our passing game. We've got to hit shots down the field. And then we have to be much more efficient with the run game. So we've been working hard on it. Our guys have. I'm proud of the way they really locked in last week in a bye week. And my expectations is this offense is going to continue to get better week after week.
With a guy like Sellers this week, how do you feel like this team has improved, particularly when it comes to stopping, running quarterbacks, athletic quarterbacks like him?
I mean, that's the first question that you would expect to hear. Last year, Sellers, when he was in, hurt us running the football. So first and foremost, we have to have a plan in place to stop the quarterback run. And then you got to keep him in the pocket. He operates best when he's outside the pocket. So, discipline in our pass rush lanes, having a solid scheme up front to take away the quarterback run. And then, let him be who he is, right? I mean, he's a quarterback with great talent. He makes plays outside the pocket down the field. We've got to avoid the big chunk plays that are not scripted. And so, he's a major focus of what we're doing this week.
In the off week, in the self-scout, when you look at the offensive line, what are you seeing there? Are they getting close, or, how can they get this running game going?
Well, again, getting the running game going is a relative term to, for me, in terms of efficiency. You don't want to be one-dimensional, but you want to be able, when you run the football, you can have some success, like we did against Ole Miss late in the game, right? How do you carry that to, where we're going to bludgeon people up front? That's not who we are right now. But we need to have a running game that keeps you honest, that you can't, put 5 guys in the box and cover down with 7 others. So fair box runs, we've got to be better at, and we've got to be able to run the ball efficiently when you give us that look. If you want to play too high safety and give us fair numbers, we've got to be efficient at running the football, and we will be eventually.
Brian, right here in the front. I guess 2 real quick. First, for just some clarity, what if anything did Garrett do on the practice field last week? And then 2, with Carius and Weston at the right tackle spot, just Is it still an open competition between those guys? How do you just sort of handle that spot along the offensive line?
Yeah, Nuss was involved in the entire practice. We just didn't have him throw. He threw with a towel, which is just getting the motions and keeping the arm ready. But he did essentially all of the mental work for what we had for the days on the field. Yeah, I mean, Weston Davis obviously couldn't play in the Ole Miss game, but look, he's got some snaps underneath him. Karras is there. If Weston needs a blow, we can also look at Karras inside at the guard position now that, Paul is banged up. So we've got some flexibility with Karras to move him into the guard position or the tackle position.
With Nuss being limited last week, what did you see from Michael Van Buren, that maybe in growth from when he first got here to now, and what do you think some things that maybe he needs to work on?
I think, he's beginning to command the offense the way I'd like a starter to command it, not a backup. I thought earlier in the year he commanded the offense like a backup. I want him to go in there and with confidence, with communication, and do that. And I thought he did a very good job when he was given the reins last week. So those are all really positive things because I think we see his skill set. He's got a live arm. He's got some elusiveness. He's got some grittiness to him that you can see in game situations. But, we really like Mike. We knew what we were getting in the portal. I think it's just his maturation now as a freshman coming into his own now that he's been in this program. So I thought it was a really good week for him.
Yeah, after, if I can go back to Ole Miss for a second, when DJ Chester was available to return in the second half, you all stayed with Kern to start the second half. Why did you all make that decision?
Because what we saw in the first half, essentially, I think if there were major issues, Matt, Brad and I would have probably made a decision there to make the change. But we felt like Karras was giving us good energy. He was protecting our edge really well in the passing game. There were a couple of mistakes inside out, which we expected that was going to happen. But by and large, we felt like let's let the young guy play, and that was kind of our sense.
The job that Kyle Parker's doing, you have a number of guys like him. Kyle Parker?
Yeah.
Yeah, just the job that he's doing. Probably
Yeah,
doesn't get
absolutely. I think he's, look, he's a player that we had a lot of confidence in, but, it was hard to get him on the field at times because you've got a great player in Aaron Anderson. So being able to get some of those guys in rhythm, as was talked about earlier, is important because he gets now a little bit more time on the field. It's not one play in, one play out. And so I think we've been able to see his skill set. He was really big for us in fourth down. Obviously, a great catch when the ball should have went somewhere else. He catches it and is able to be strong enough to get a first down. So some key catches for us. He's a very important part of our offense.
Coach, you mentioned last week about how distractions had been an issue. Some players not locking in for 4 quarters, and you wanted to get that fixed. How do you do that this week before South Carolina as you try to lock in to play complementary football like you mentioned?
Yeah, the distractions to me is just, having focus, one play at a time. It's 4 to 6 seconds. You can't let the next play affect the play that's coming up. I think that's sometimes competitive maturity and growing as an individual. I think we have some guys that have that can do that and lock in every single play and not let their play kind of go up and down. It's a process of guys playing and understanding when they see that they're not playing well, they got to remind themselves to lock back in, keep this to a 4 to 6 second play, and move on to the next. And that, I think, as I said, a number of our veteran guys have it. We got to get all of our guys on the same page.
You might have talked about this after the Ole Miss game, but I think people said you ran the ball twice in the first half with a running back, perhaps. Is it a case of having to stick with it sometimes, even when you're not having success?
Yeah, it's circumstantial to a lot, Jacques, in terms of the runs, right? You want to be able to set up what you're doing as a play caller. And look, I think Joe does a really good job. He obviously is under the microscope. I get it. He gets it. We're looking for balance in our offense. And sometimes the circumstances are such that, a run call doesn't make sense here. But we clearly understand the need for balance. We clearly understand the need to complement our defense, and you can't do it just by throwing it.
Obviously, a lot of the focus is on the offense, with the defense gave up some big plays, maybe more than you used to, but at the same time kept you in the game. They were on the field a lot. How did you feel the defense performed at Ole Miss, and what, if anything, needed to be worked on? What
Well,
points
we
of
gave
emphasis
up,
were
we
this
gave
week?
up 7 points in the second half. You know, anytime against an Ole Miss offense and Lane Kiffin's offense, if you give up 7, you feel like you should win the game. We just did not meet the level of our defense in that game. Yeah, listen, our defensive players to a man would tell you that was not our best game. But if that's not our best game, it was still good enough for us to win the game if we play up to our standards on offense. That's really, when you break it all down, that's the end of the story there.